Arionne Curry is back on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, and that one casting decision changes the conversation around Melody Shari, Martell Holt, and Carlos King. This isn't just another returning cast member. Arionne's relationship with Martell became one of the most painful and controversial parts of Melody and Martell's story. Martell has described that relationship as on and off for roughly 10 years, and OWN's Season 12 promotional material describes Arion as having had a years-long affair with Martell while he was married to Melody. Now she's actually featured in the Season 12 trailer. That raises an uncomfortable question. If Carlos King helped build the world that made Melody's story such a major part of this franchise, does bringing Arion back feel like a betrayal of Melody? Or is this just reality television doing what reality television does? Melody and Martell's relationship was one of the central stories of Love and Marriage, Huntsville, and the breakdown of that marriage became deeply tied to the show's larger drama. Then came Arionne Curry. Martell and Arion share a son, Maverick, and Melody has publicly confronted Arion before, including public disputes discussed on social media. So when viewers see Arion in the Season 12 promo material, they're going to bring all of that history with them. There's another layer to the timing. Melody eventually left the show after declining a Season 10 contract, according to the supplied material, which raised its own question about what the franchise looks like without one of its most recognizable figures. Now Season 12 arrives with Arion back in the picture, and that timing alone is going to make people ask whether the show is intentionally reopening an old chapter. That's where Carlos King comes in. He's closely associated with building the Love and Marriage franchise, and the supplied material ties Melody's history with the show back to Carlos and its original concept. If Melody and Martell's relationship helped define the franchise, and Arion was part of the real-life history around that relationship, then bringing Arion back now creates a complicated perception. Was Melody's story being protected? Or was the story always bigger than Melody? We should be careful here. There's no confirmed evidence in the supplied material that Carlos personally intended Arion's return as a betrayal of Melody. That's commentary and speculation, not established fact. What we can say is that the casting decision creates that perception because of the history involved, and few storylines in this franchise carry more unresolved emotional weight than Martell, Melody, and Arion. The Season 12 promotional campaign is built around the word transparency, which in reality TV usually signals that people are going to confront things that were previously left unresolved. Arionne's return fits that theme. The trailer revisits her history with Martell rather than treating it as background, which means Martell can no longer talk about that chapter as something purely in the past. Arion is now part of the show's current story. Destiny Payton adds another layer. Season 12 material shows Destiny and Arion heading toward conflict, which means Arion's storyline won't exist in isolation. Once a returning cast member is tied to multiple existing relationships, the story spreads across the whole cast, who supports Arion, who challenges her, and what everyone thinks about bringing this chapter back to television at all. Viewers may come in asking, what happened between Martell and Arion? But the more interesting question might be, why is this story being told again now? And that's where Carlos King's name becomes hard to avoid, because audiences don't experience casting decisions in a vacuum. They remember who was at the center of the show, who left, and how certain people became associated with the franchise. So even without evidence of a deliberate plan, the optics matter. For viewers who connected with Melody's side of the story, seeing Arion return after Melody's departure could feel like the show shifting from telling Melody's story to telling the story around her. That said, the franchise is a television production, and casting is ultimately a business decision that doesn't cancel out viewers having a real emotional reaction to it. Carlos can see Arion as valuable to the current storyline, while some viewers still read her return as disrespectful to Melody. The open question is whether the show turns that tension into something meaningful rather than just recycling old drama. Season 12 has other threads running too. Martell and Maurice Scott's previous conflict appears to be resurfacing, which matters because Maurice has his own complicated history within the group, and their past conflicts have gone beyond simple disagreements. Mixed with the Arion storyline, that could get volatile fast, since different cast members have different relationships with Martell and each other. Separately, Marceau and Letitia Scott's Season 12 storyline involves problems with their residential investment property. It looks unrelated to Arion on the surface, but that's how ensemble reality TV works. Multiple conflicts run at once, and eventually one person's disagreement becomes another person's loyalty test. There's also the question of Ken and Trisha, who appeared in earlier filming footage but are missing from the newer promotional image. That's worth noting, but there isn't enough confirmed information to say why, so their situation should stay a question mark rather than a fact, the same standard that should apply to the bigger Carlos and Melody question. There's a real difference between saying, "This could feel like a betrayal to Melody's supporters," and saying, "Carlos betrayed Melody." The first is commentary. The second needs evidence we don't have. Maybe the more useful question isn't about betrayal at all, but about storytelling. Arion brings a direct connection to Martell, a shared child, a publicly documented history with him, a publicly contentious relationship with Melody, and now an apparent issue with Destiny. From a production standpoint, that's a huge amount of built-in history nobody has to manufacture from scratch, which doesn't prove why the decision was made, but explains why it could shape the whole season. The audience sees people, the network sees a season, the producers see story arcs, the cast sees relationships, and those perspectives don't always line up. Put together, Melody's past public statements, Martell's public comments about Arion, the show now revisiting that history, and a promotional campaign promising transparency, the timing is hard to ignore. Arion's return isn't just a casting announcement, it's the reopening of a conversation. And that means real questions without comfortable answers. Why now? Why this season? Why after Melody's departure? What Martell wants from this storyline? What Arion wants from coming back? And whether this gives viewers real closure or just restarts an old cycle. If Season 12 spends the whole season turning Arion and Martell's history into another round of accusations and alliances, viewers may end up wondering if anything's actually changed. But if it uses her return to actually explore the consequences of those old decisions, for Melody, Martell, Arion, their family, and the wider cast, it could be something more significant. That's the real test of the transparency promise. Not how loud the arguments get, but how honestly the show deals with the uncomfortable parts of the past. And with Arion now officially part of Season 12's promotional material, that door is open again, whether viewers wanted it opened or not. So, back to Carlos King. Did he betray Melody? Based on what's available here, that's not something we can state as fact. There's no confirmed evidence he made this decision specifically to undermine her. What we do know is that Arion's return carries a lot of emotional history because of her connection to Martell and her role in the broader Melody Martell story, which makes the perception of betrayal understandable even though perception isn't proof. Carlos may see a compelling storyline. Melody's supporters may see an old wound reopened. Martell has to deal with a past chapter becoming current again. Arion gets a bigger platform to tell her side. Destiny looks headed for conflict with her. Maurice and Martell have their own tension resurfacing, and Marceau and Letitia have a separate issue pulling attention elsewhere. Somewhere in the middle of all that, viewers are left sorting out what's real, what's old history, what's there for entertainment, and what's still unresolved behind the scenes. That's why Season 12 could be bigger than Arion is back. It's potentially about who controls the narrative after years of public history. Melody isn't at the center of the cast the way she used to be. Arion is stepping into the spotlight. Martell is still tied to both sides of that history, and Carlos King's role in the show's origins puts his decisions in the conversation whether he intended that or not. What happens next is the real test. If Arion's return finally answers questions that have hung over this franchise for years, viewers may see it as necessary. If it just creates another unresolved cycle of conflict, people may start questioning whether the show keeps revisiting the past simply because the past still draws attention. So here's the question. Is Carlos King's decision to bring Arionne Curry back a genuine attempt to tell an important, unresolved story? Or does it cross a line into betraying Melody Shari? I don't think it's as simple as picking a side between the two of them. The bigger issue is who gets to tell the story now. Drop your take in the comments, especially if you watched the earlier seasons and remember how the Melody Martell Arion situation first played out. And if season 12 keeps escalating, there's more to unpack. From Arion and Destiny's apparent conflict, to Martell and Maurice's history, to Marceau and Letitia's property problems, to whatever's going on with Ken and Trisha, this season may be reopening chapters a lot of people thought were closed. And the real question isn't just whether Arion changed the show by coming back. It's whether the show is finally ready to deal with everything her return brings with it.